A lady named Virginie is seen. She sells locusts and grasshoppers after growing them up. It is seen that her customer comes to her. She was testing locusts' quality and taste. She likes the taste of locusts too much. But they were in low numbers. So he becomes furious. And he says, "I will not visit you next time." Then Virginie calls her friend named Kareem, and she asks for help from him, because her customers had refused to buy locusts. In the next scene, Virginie's daughter, Laura, is seen. Her classmates were teasing her, posting her awkward videos online, because her mother used to handle the locusts business. Laura gets angry too much because of this. And she begins to beat that boy who had posted that video. Virginie stops her at the right time, coming there. Now she accompanies her to the home. But Laura still was very furious. Then Virginie tells her, "I am going to sell all the locusts. Afterwards, we will also move somewhere else, leaving this city. Then such issues will not aroused in our life." Laura is comforted on the words of Virginie. Next day, it is seen that a customer comes to Virginie to buy the locusts. But he was offering very low payment of those locusts. So Virginie makes him go from there. Here, she was in rage. Now she was destroying grasshoppers and locusts' nest, going there. Then she is knocked out after slipping. Restoring her senses, she witnesses that many locusts are sat on her wound. SH feels so strange, observing it, thinking that locusts only take the herbs, and they are the plant eater. So why were they sucking the blood? Locusts had sat on her wound, so her injury had more infected. Next day, she moves to Kareem and asks about the customer. Then Kareem tells the former visited customer had come here on his asking. Afterwards, she returns to home after being disappointed. Reaching there, she again moves to that locust's nest. She is left shocked, because the number of locusts had increased there, and those locusts' size had also increased. After this, she again moves to locust's nest. Then she is more astonished, because their breeding had increased twice. Now Virginie had understood that these all locusts were increasing and growing because of her blood. So she again makes locusts suck her blood after removing her hand bandage. She feels much pain due to this. In spite of it, she does so. Now it is seen that she was trying to take locust stings out with the help of her hands, in which she was feeling a bitter pain. Next day, when she again visits that nest, she observes that the numbers of locusts and their size had more increased. Virginie was building one more nest because of the locust swarming. Virginie's son peeps into the window of other locusts' nest to see them, but Laura loses her temper, because she had known now that they are not going to migrate somewhere else. Now Virginie's son keeps some of the locusts in his room's locust, taking it from there. That boy had kept those locusts at a place that new locusts had eaten the old locusts. Virginie is again seen who was making the locusts to suck her blood, going into their nest. She moves to Karim, doing so. She says to her about the customers there, but Karim tells him that her customers will offer her very low payment, so she refuses him for this. Now she contacts the former customers. When that man asks about the quality of the locusts, then she tells that these are better than previous ones. Then that man purchases all locusts. Then Virginie returns home and orders a quantity of blood, through which she may feed the locusts. When that boy reaches, taking the blood, he asks her, "What will you do with the large quantity of blood?" Virginie tells him that I will serve it to the locusts as their food. Then that boy laughs at this fact and ignores it here. Afterwards, it is seen that Virginie was serving the blood to the locusts one by one. Then the scene moves to Laura, where her friend comes to meet her. He tells her that I have recently visited your house, where the locusts in their nest were sounding very much. Do you not disturb from this noise? Laura does not utter a word on it, but Laura flies into rage. After this, she moves to the locust's nest, and she ruins the whole nest of the locusts. Consequently, all locusts get from that nest out. Those locusts attack her brother here, but her brother was in car, so he remained secured. All those locusts attack on her brother's goat. As a result, it runs away. Virginie's son tells her about the locusts as she comes to home. Afterwards, she advised Laura and his brother to stay at home, and she also asks Laura's friend to return to his home. Virginie had gone in search of her son's goat. After doing so, Crossing a distance, Virginie catches the sight of that goat, which had turned into a worse condition by the swarm of locusts. Virginie's son asks her mother as he returns to home, "Did you find that goat?" Virginie replies, "No. It may have fled somewhere." Meantime, she glimpses Laura, who was behaving mysteriously. She was very frightened. So, Virginie understands that nest has been ruined by Laura. Now she locks Laura into a room in anger. She also says, with it, she will have to stay at home now. Hearing it, Laura is more scared. Next day, it is seen. Virginie was feeling ill for Laura, so she talks with her in friendly tone. And she asks her to join the family picnic. In the next scene, they are seen beside the beach, where Laura observes many injuries on her body. Laura asks Virginie about it, but she ignores her question. In fact, the body had wounded because of blood sucking of the locusts. They enjoy a lot on this picnic. As they reach at home, Virginie had planned a surprise for Laura, along with the help of her friend, Kareem, where Laura is pleased, witnessing her new scooty. Virginie was doing all this to please Laura. Next day, it is seen that Virginie had turned her focus on her business again. As he orders for blood, then she is told that she cannot be supplied the blood because of having no license. Meanwhile, some people arrive there to build a locust's nest. Virginie had called them. She had to make her house's tree cut because of the limited space. Her son was forbidding her to cut the tree, so she becomes very angry due to this. Afterwards, Virginie was extracting her blood to feed the locusts. Her friend, Kareem, says to Virginie, observing all, "Your business is very strange." And Virginie feels ill for this. And she says to him, "Your arrival disturbs me. Call me if you visit next time." Kareem is disheartened on it, and he leaves from there. Virginie was very worried because she was wanting to arrange the blood, but it was not being arranged. Meantime, she hears the barking of a dog. She catches that dog and puts into the locust's nest. All locusts eat that dog soon. Next morning, it is seen when Virginie is cleaning the blood of the dog from there. Then Laura, her daughter, arrives there, but Virginie forbids her to enter there. Then Laura tells her, "Some customers have arrived outside." It means Virginie's business was progressing day by day, so she moves to a forest at night, and she hunts a cow from there so she may serve the cow blood to locusts. Next morning, it is known that Virginie had gone somewhere for camping. Laura wakes Virginie up, but she says to Laura that, "Drop your brother at bus stop." Laura drops her brother at bus stop, but she and her brother were both upset, because they both think that mother has surely some issues which she is not sharing. Laura searches for her mother as she returns to her house, but she finds her nowhere. So she moves to Locust's nest, where her mother was serving the blood to the locusts. There were swarm of locusts on her. She was frightened, seeing it. She sends the message to Kareem, entering the house. Kareem finds Virginie in bad condition as he enters the house, and he brings them into his house. Kareem was asking some questions from Laura, coming to his house. Meanwhile, Virginie comes there. He also asks many questions from Virginie, but Virginie does not respond to him, and Kareem gets angry too much on her, and Virginie moves with him from there. Even her daughter, Laura, forbids her. Afterwards, it is seen that the dog which had been served to the locusts, the owner of the dog had come here while searching it, as he enters into that locust's nest. Then he is frightened, seeing a swarm of the locusts, and he falls down there. Now all locusts had started to eat the flesh of that man. Kareem had come to drop Virginie and Laura at their home. So he moves inside to see the locust's nest, and he is panicked, observing the dead body of that man. As Laura comes outside to gratify Laura, then she knows, seeing him. Now, Kareem has known all the reality, but Virginie had no knowledge that he has witnessed a dead body. She thinks that it is Laura who had told everything to him. She runs to Laura there. Here, Kareem takes the fuel tank from the trunk of her car and sets the nest on fire. As a result, many locusts had fled from the nest because of setting it on fire. Then Virginie and Lautra reach there, witnessing the fire. And Virginie is going to extinguish that fire immediately. Now all of locusts were coming after them. Kareem immediately enters the house, taking Laura. He switches off all lights of the house. But Virginie was still trying to extinguish that fire. Meanwhile, she hears the sound of her daughter, Laura, when she enters the house, leaving everything. She is left shocked seeing it that all locusts had eaten the flesh of Kareem. Laura had escaped from there. Laura reaches a forest while running, but locusts were still after her. She suddenly sees a river there. And she jumps into the water. And she covers her with a bot, lying there. All locusts were still coming over her. Meanwhile, Virginie had appeared there, chasing her. Now Virginie covers her face with her blood while self-injuring, so all locusts may attract towards her. And Laura may remain safe. It happens so. All locusts are allured towards Virginie. All locusts had vanished from here. And Laura thinks that her mother is no more. And she instantly begins to search for her mother, throwing the boat far. In the end, she is very excited, seeing her mother alive. She embraces her. And the movie completes on this scene. Don't forget to subscribe to YouTube Film. Goodbye.